Good evening, I'm your host, Jack Remington of Jack Remington Political Analyst. Today's video is about the George Floyd case that started in Minneapolis, Minnesota on May the 25th last month. It's always a great day to be an American. I'll start off with that. Very difficult topic to start, so let's get right to it. Disclaimer, this is not some nice dog and pony YouTube video created just to earn money and keep viewers and YouTube happy. Other YouTubers are afraid to tackle this George Floyd case out of fear. I get it. I understand. Recently, another great YouTuber, her name is Shauna Ray, she was bullied by some clown on Reddit and shamed her into retreating, even if that retreat is temporary. That is uncalled for what they did to her. However, if you deal with me, no one can shame me on anything, anytime, anywhere, in any way. Yes, I am glad and grateful for my 18 subscribers as of press time. I want to keep the 18 subscribers. I want to grow this channel into the top spot all time. But the bottom line is that I must put your feelings and your beliefs down a few notches on the totem pole of life. The preservation of America as we know it takes the ultimate precedence over any social problem, which will include racism. I'll deal with racism later. I quote the fourth sentence from the third paragraph written by the late, great President Abraham Lincoln, August 22nd, 1862. This is from a letter he wrote to the New York Tribune editor-in-chief, Horace Greeley, who was the top newspaper journalist of that day. I quote, "If there be those who would not save the Union unless they could at the same time destroy slavery, I do not agree with them. My paramount object in this struggle is to save the Union, and is not to either save or destroy slavery. If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. And if I could save the Union by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. And if I could save the Union by freeing some of the slaves and leaving others alone, I would also do that. What I do about slave and the colored race is because I believe it to save the Union. And what I forbear because I do not believe it would help to save the Union." End of quote. And I did not read this in a book. I first saw this on the Lincoln Memorial Monument in Washington, D.C., where I lived in that metro area for 28 years of my life. This opening disclaimer is to serve notice that I am an equal opportunity offender. I do not care who likes not my message or understand my message. I create this video with the knowledge that I may lose my subscribers, all of them, and they may get offended, all of them, and they may all quit. That is all of your rights to quit. If necessary, I will stand alone. This video is part one of a three-part video series touching all relevant parts of the sad, tragic George Floyd case. Here in video one, we will discuss the facts and relevance of that bad arrest and the results and aftermath of this still continuing saga. As of filming time, there are still some protests, still some looting, still some rioting, still throwing rocks at the police as we speak. Opening statement. Yes, the There are many problems in many directions, and believe it or not, most of what I'm going to discuss here in video 1 is not in dispute by any side or agenda. It's very strange. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. The Minneapolis police were called on May 25th to report the attempt of a suspect with a counterfeit $20 bill. The police arrived with several cars, and they placed the suspect George FLOYD, under arrest. Much information was passed out to mainstream media outlets regarding the officers, if it was a $10 bill or it's a check. There was no audio, etc., no other cameras. All that is not relevant. What is relevant is that this Officer Chavin was filmed committing what I call, and a lot of other people are calling, a bad arrest on a suspect that sure looked to me like he was 100% cuffed and subdued and on the ground with 4 guys around him. At some point, that detainee, George FLOYD, was taken to a local hospital where he died about 1 hour later. A 17-year-old bystander, a girl named Darnella Frazier, put this video, as she was filming it through her cell phone, on her social media platforms. The outrage started within minutes. What is relevant here is that during the initial information processing and viewing by the public, because of that video, there was not one instance of rioting, looting, destruction of property, fighting the police, or not even one protest at that juncture in time. But here's what I saw. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey quickly assembles a press conference and demands that the district attorney tells the Minneapolis police to arrest the officers involved with this George FLOYD case.
What we've seen over the last 2 days and the emotion-ridden conflict over last night is the result of so much built-up anger and sadness. Anger and sadness that has been ingrained in our black community, not just because of 5 minutes of horror, but 400 years. If you're feeling that sadness and that anger, it's not only understandable, it's right. It's a reflection of the truth that our black community has lived. While not from lived experience, that sadness must also be understood by our non-black communities. To ignore it, to toss it out, would be to ignore the values we all claim to have, that are all the more important during a time of crisis.
Now, video 3 of this 3-part video series will deal with Mayor Frey, and I will demand his resignation due to his inappropriate remarks and starting the Minneapolis riots. And the said riots and looting and destruction of property and assaults started within minutes of this inappropriate press conference by Mayor Frey. So stay tuned. So that Hennepin County District Attorney does get Officer Chavin arrested, and all 4 officers were terminated within minutes. Okay, this was before Jacob Frey's press conference, and I'll detail all that in the 3rd video. The police chief, when he first found out about it, they were all immediately terminated. That's not in dispute, but what's completely relevant, number 1, yes, we have a bad cop. Number 2, the Minneapolis Police Department's had many problems in the last couple decades, and some of it has made international news, especially the top-profile murder case of Justine Rushchick, that Australian woman shot by Officer Mohammed Moore. Number 3, in this George FLOYD case, the Hennepin County DA and Minneapolis Police Chief took the swiftest actions with his officers involved. It does not matter what that ineffective Mayor Frey says. And like I said, I'll detail all that in video 3. You're going to be shocked when you figure out what happened here. That Justine Rushchick case, the Australian girl, That case took 8 months to process, and the trial lasted over 2 years. Justice is not instantaneous like people want it to be. So now we're going to discuss the results of this bad arrest and the George Floyd death. 140 American cities across our country, including Alaska and Hawaii, had protesters, rioters, and looters. As of filming right now, today, 18 deaths and over 11,000 arrests by law enforcement officers and over 15,000 personal injuries and over 5,000 businesses destroyed. So now I want to discuss there's 4 social construct mechanisms that appear immediately. Number 1, it's Black Lives Matter. Number 2, All Lives Matter. Number 3, assorted peaceful protesters that cause no harm. And number 4, assorted protesters with intent other than a peaceful protest. It covers a lot of ground with these people. So let's go over these 4 social construct mechanisms one by one. Number 1, Black Lives Matter. I personally do not buy their narrative that only Black Americans are in jeopardy. Other groups get abused every day somewhere in this country by police as well as Black people. They don't have the monopoly on discrimination and police injustice. Number 2, All Lives Matter. That's the group that I belong to. Any life that is in danger and subject to the abuse gets a fire hose of protection when each individual case unfolds. That narrative on Twitter, I'm going to disprove that. Number 3, the assorted peaceful protesters that cause no harm. Yes, many of them may even disagree on particular points, but they are exercising their First Amendment rights with free speech and with all civil discourse. These peaceful protesters, they are not expecting to be in harm's way. Number 4, the assorted protesters with intent other than a peaceful protest. These are the anarchists, opportunists and violent criminals you see on TV stealing merchandise from stores, assaulting people, setting police cars on fire, and rioting. They all need to be locked up for life and have them do road trash pickup duty and chains that will remind them every day the rest of their lives what they did was antisocial and destructive and harmful. Does not serve any cause in a positive way. My official statement regarding this entire George Floyd case: First Amendment right for free speech must remain paramount and made available for every American citizen, including me, here on YouTube. The First Amendment rights for free speech must remain paramount and made available for every American citizens at all times, for all topics, even those topics that make people uncomfortable and angry. For every TV show, video, radio show, podcast, live stream, newspaper or blog, or any other media out there that has offended your free speech in any way, you have that freedom. You have that freedom of choice to turn away from the content that offends you. Walk away, turn it off, throw it away. You do not have the right to throw objects, steal, assault, riot, loot in the name of George Floyd or anyone else's name. You do not have the right to infringe on any other person's rights and property, including personal safety. Of course, yes, I personally feel bad about this George Floyd case, and I wish that I had the magic wand that would save his life and stop all activities of these riots and protesters and looters except for the peaceful ones, which in fact do no harm in all communities at any time. There's nothing wrong with a peaceful protest. The protests are not the same as the rioters and looters. The mainstream media melds the word protester in the same category with rioters and looters. If anyone out there falls for that mainstream media propaganda trick again, that you have been the last 4 or 5 years, you deserve what you get. Using George Floyd's tragic set of events for political gain and posturing is abominable, out of line, and anachronistic, and also anti-American, in my opinion. I want to make one quick point here without digressing too far here. The mainstream media is in the business of remaining relevant every day. They are not in the business of curing insomnia with boring stories via milk and toast bedtime stories. That doesn't pay their bills. They are in a cutthroat business, and 1 second too late to the show or a deliberately planted bad lead to mislead them so you can get the scoop, it's all part of that game. Some politicians are allowing the mainstream media outlets to keep their voters happy, as most politicians see politics as a lifetime career, which I'm outright opposing, but more on this in the future for other videos. And I'm here to tell you, if you can bear with this channel, you'll be pleasantly surprised at what I got to propose. America is founded by the rule of law, and President Trump has been painted into a corner, and he had no other choice but to put the complicit governors of these riots and looters and destruction of property on notice to protect fellow American citizens. So here's that clip of President Donald Trump.
Thank you very much. My fellow Americans, my first and highest duty as president is to defend our great country and the American people. I swore an oath to uphold the laws of our nation, and that is exactly what I will do. All Americans were rightly sickened and revolted by the brutal death of George FLOYD. My administration is fully committed that for George and his family, justice will be served. He will not have died in vain. I will fight to protect you. I am your president of law and order and an ally of all peaceful protesters. A number of state and local governments have failed to take necessary action to safeguard their residents. Innocent people have been savagely beaten, like the young man in Dallas, Texas, who was left dying on the street, or the woman in upstate New York viciously attacked by dangerous thugs. Small business owners have seen their dreams utterly destroyed. New York's finest have been hit in the face with bricks. Brave nurses who have battled the virus are afraid to leave their homes. A police precinct has been overrun here in the nation's capital. The Lincoln Memorial and the World War II Memorial have been vandalized. One of our most historic churches was set ablaze. A federal officer in California, an African-American enforcement hero, was shot and killed. This is our mission, and we will succeed. 100%, we will succeed. Our country always wins. Today, I have strongly recommended to every governor to deploy the National Guard in sufficient numbers that we dominate the streets. If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them. I am also taking swift and decisive action to protect our great capital, Washington, D.C. What happened in this city last night was a total disgrace. Those who threaten innocent life and property will be arrested, detained, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I want the organizers of this terror to be on notice that you will face severe criminal penalties and lengthy sentences in jail. This includes Antifa and others who are leading instigators of this violence. I take these actions today with firm resolve and with a true and passionate love for our country. By far, our greatest days lie ahead. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to pay my respects to a very, very special place. Thank you very much.
If you're on the side of the anarchists, I have a message for you. For those of you who blame Donald Trump, you are part of the problem. Trump's tweets and words are not causing the death, destruction, and bodily harm. Your criminal actions are. Your criminal actions are doing that. Grow up. Get a job. And video 2 gets to more specifics regarding the Minneapolis Police Department itself. 2 clues for the viewers for now, what's coming up on the next video. Number 1, 4 Minneapolis Star-Tribune writers created a database that contained all police deaths incidents since the year 2000. Okay, and right now there's 195 of them there. That's in 2 decades. That's extremely disturbing to me. So we're going to take a hard look at that. Number 2, here's my footage of a case that the vice presidential candidate, Amy Klobuchar, she had adjudicated some years ago in Hennepin County. So I already covered that once. I say my educated best guess for last, Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. She was the district attorney of Hennepin County, Minnesota, the largest populated county in the whole state of Minnesota. She built up a decent reputation of being tough on crime as that top DA of Hennepin County, but she had come under some fire since the campaign was in progress for a sad, unfortunate case, and I quote, Klobuchar defends a role in prosecution of black teenager and stray bullet murder case, end quote. Without discussing much of the merits of this horrible, unfortunate case, Let me say here that, in my opinion, a case that any DA has tried over a decade to go anywhere to be harangued to revisit that case or any other case is extremely improper. If there was indeed evidence of all of a sudden the suspect being truly innocent, why are we bringing this up now? And for the uninformed, Amy Klobuchar cannot interfere with the cases already decided and since backed up from subsequent administrations since she left the DA's office, which had been for many years now. Anyone that wants to get that case revisited needs to get a current court and judge to take another look, revisit the evidence, revisit the transcripts, and start over. As I am predicting that she is going to be the vice president picked by Joe Biden.
Not I, but it just happened to be that was the assignment I got. I got all the good ones. So I got Ukraine and Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours. I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Always a great day to be an American. Thank you. Please subscribe. Save this video. Stay tuned. Thank you. So anyway, thank you for watching. Always a great day to be an American. Share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.